Hello. Thank you for joining us here at the Greenbrier Church Online. I recently heard this preacher's story, which, well, it means it could be a lie, but it's a story about this young girl living in Vermont. Over the summer, she had turned 16 and gotten her driver's license, but now it's November and the weather's getting colder. One night on her way home, it begins to snow, and it wasn't that gentle, beautiful Hallmark movie kind of snow. It was one of those blinding snowstorms. You could barely see 5 feet in front of her car, and it's not long before the roads and the street signs were invisible. This young girl was unaccustomed to driving in the snow, so she began to panic a little bit. Her mind raced, and then she remembered what her dad told her. He said, if you ever get in a snowstorm, just pull over on the side of the road. Eventually, a snowplow will come by. Pull in behind the snowplow, and pretty soon you'll get to a place that you recognize. You can find your way home from there. So she pulled off on the side of the road, and sure enough, in a few minutes, a snowplow comes scraping down the street. The snow's still falling pretty hard, but she could see the lights on the back of the snowplow, so she followed. When the snowplow turned left, she turned left. When it turned right, she turned right. And she did this for about 15 minutes, and then the driver stops the truck. He gets out of the truck, walks back to the car, motions for the young girl to roll down her window, and thinking that he's going to give her directions, she lowers the window. The man looks at her and asks, "Why are you following me?" She politely explained what her dad had told her about following a snowplow if she ever got lost in a storm. The driver nodded, said, "Okay, that's fine, but I'm almost done with this parking lot, and in a few minutes I'm going to drive over to the mall. You can follow me there if you want to." I don't think that's exactly what the girl's father had in mind. I mean, we need to give her some credit. She did exactly what she was taught, but it didn't do her any good. She's following the wrong leader. Instead of following a leader that would clear out the public streets and roads and get her home, she was following one that cleared out parking lots. Okay, I know you've heard enough sermons in your lifetime that the spiritual application is pretty obvious. Be careful who you follow. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about being intentional about the leader we choose to follow. It seems like these days that the things that we use to define a leader is based on how much money, power, or influence they can flaunt to the people around them. I mean, some people are willing to do anything to get to the top, but is that what makes a good leader? Is a good leader based on the number of people who report to them, or how many decisions they have to make, or how many zeros are on the end of their paycheck? Is it the charm or persuasiveness that they hold that makes them a good leader? At the end of the day, leadership is not as mystical as we make it out to be. The truth is, leadership is connected to behavior. We follow someone because of the way that they act and live and relate. If you're living a life of leadership, you never have to tell anybody you're the leader. They just kind of gravitate and follow you. I'm sure that you realize that Jesus was not your typical leader. He didn't come to earth with a show of might and power, but he could have. Instead, Jesus shows up as a servant, willing to do the Father's work. He lived a life of perfection and died on a cross to take a punishment that he didn't deserve. Jesus was always humble, obedient, loving, and selfless. And while this might not be the way that you would assume political power, it's important to remember that Jesus never came to be a political king. Jesus lived a life that compelled fishermen, tradesmen, moms and dad to follow him. During his time, things were not a whole lot of elite people and power brokers who wanted to lay down their power and prestige to follow Jesus. Instead, we find Jesus calling anyone who wanted to hear the call. That's why his kingdom is filled with broken, struggling, displaced, suffering, degenerate, and sinful people. Jesus is the leader of broken people who have come to desire his love and his compassion. Those men and women who are willing to follow him are the vessels through which he still does amazing things in our world and community. Jesus is the perfect leader, but I can't just tell you that and expect you to believe it to be true. We have to get a clear picture of the way that he lived, acted, and related with folks, people that he came in contact with. Jesus invites us to get to know him because he invites us to follow him. Our text this morning picks up the story after Jesus has been baptized, after his time of temptation. We find John the Baptist is standing with two of his disciples when he sees Jesus. Let's pick up our text starting in the first chapter of John, verse 35. The day after John saw him again as he was visiting with two of his disciples, as Jesus walked by, he announced again, "Do you see him? This man is the Lamb of God, God's sacrifice to cleanse our sins." At that moment, the two disciples began to follow Jesus, who turned back to them saying, "What is it that you want?" The two disciples replied, "We'd like to know where you're staying. Teacher, may we remain at your side today?" Jesus replied, "Come and see. Follow me, and we will camp together." It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when they met Jesus. They came and saw where he was staying, but they got more than they imagined. They remained with him the rest of the day and followed him for the rest of their lives. The first words that Jesus utters in John's gospel are an invitation. He says, "What do you want? What are you looking for?" Jerry Barber used to tell me that the smartest person in the room is not the one that has all of the right answers, it's the one that has all of the right questions. From the very beginning of John's gospel, we see that Jesus asks the questions that force us to think, encourage us to contemplate, questions that don't lend themselves to an easy answer. What are you looking for is this great question, because some days I'm just looking for a parking spot. Some days I'm looking for my keys or my phone or the remote control. Some days I'm looking for the perfect sermon illustration, and other days I'm just looking for something to eat. But Jesus isn't talking about anything that mundane when he asks, "What are you looking for?" I mean, when you think about it, it's really a strange way to start a conversation. But it's a question that cuts deeper than what you want. It implies, what are you longing for? What are you searching for? What are you yearning for? When Jesus asked, "What are you looking for?" the question goes so much deeper than, "Can I help you find something?" Jesus is actually asking, what are you searching for in your life? What is your soul's deepest desire? It's the same question that he asks us. What are we looking for? What is it that'll satisfy your soul? Jesus still wants to know, because we're really good at looking for all the wrong things in all the wrong places. Maybe you've spent months trying to figure out what you want to devote your life to. Maybe you're looking for the career, or considering a career change that'll give your life meaning. Maybe you're looking for a husband or a wife or someone to just share your life with. Maybe you're looking for healing, physical healing or healing of an old, deep wound. Maybe you're looking for friendship or community. I think there are those of us that are just looking for ways to make ends meet in the current economic crisis. Some of us are just looking for a little peace and quiet, while others are looking for adventure because life has gotten a little stale. And in our search, we tend to turn to all of these self-help programs, diets, workout routines. We try to improve our physical and emotional lives. But unfortunately, there are times that we turn to destructive habits, and we do things that take up time and money, and we waste our lives looking for the next big thrill, expecting to be entertained at ever-increasing levels of stimulation. And we're really good at buying stuff as if buying another knickknack is going to somehow make us feel better. Or maybe you're not searching at all. And really this morning, that's one of my greatest fears. I'm afraid that when we come into the presence of God, we're not really looking for anything. I mean, there are some people that are in church this morning and they have no sense of purpose, no expectation. They just showed up because that's what they were expected to do. I often wonder how our worship experience would be different if we came looking for something, if we came with this expectation that we were going to meet God. I wonder how it would be different if we came to pour out our hearts in worship, if we came with this longing and this searching, this yearning in our hearts to be with Him. The truth is, every one of us, we're all seekers, even if we can't quite put a finger on what we're looking for. But it's that seeking, that desire that opens us up to experience whatever God puts in front of us. Like John's disciples, I really hope that we're looking for Jesus, longing to hear His invitation to come and see, because that's what it means to be a disciple. It means being someone who wants to tag along with Jesus so that we can learn from Him and be more like Him. I would imagine that when Jesus asked them, "What are you looking for?" that they would have been quick to say something like, "We're looking for the Messiah," or "We're looking for an adventure or a new experience. We want to see the world far beyond the borders of our little bitty village where we've spent our whole lives." Maybe they could have said, "We're looking to make a difference, to be a part of a movement that resists the Roman occupation and the corrupt leadership of Judea." I mean, honestly, in my mind, those would have been appropriate answers to Jesus' question, but they don't really ever answer His question. Instead, they pose a question to Jesus' question. They say, "Where are you staying?" Jesus says, "What are you looking for?" And they respond, "Where are you staying?" Which is a really strange way to answer the question. But what if they're not just asking for His current address? Maybe they're searching for the same thing we're longing for and searching for, a relationship with Him. Maybe they're looking for a close friendship with Jesus and they found what they were looking for in Him. So wherever Jesus was, whatever He did, wherever He went, they wanted to be right there with Him. They wanted to stay with Jesus. I think basically they're asking, "Jesus, is there room in your life for us? Can we stay with you? Will you be our leader?" Because we're looking for something, for someone to devote our lives to. We're looking for someone who will teach us about the things of God. And, well, if you're who John says you are, we want to spend every possible waking moment in your presence. And Jesus invited them to do just that, to come and see, come and stay, come and experience life with me, come and see what this looks like. Come and experience everything that our Father has created you to enjoy. Think about it for a moment. In your life, who were your favorite teachers in school or at some other point in your life? Who are the men and the women who had the greatest impact in your life? And I'm pretty sure you'll recognize they're not the folks that just stand up there and explain what's happening. They're people that have invited you to participate, to come and experience life for yourself. When we hear Jesus say, "Come and see," He doesn't launch into a lecture. He doesn't give them a reading list. He doesn't even give them a business card with His address on it in case they want to look Him up later. He invited them into His life. He invites them to come and see. He invites us to learn and to experience life with Him for ourselves. My prayer is this morning that when you hear Jesus ask the question, what you're looking for, that you hear His invitation to come and be His disciple, to follow where He leads. If we want to live with Jesus for all eternity, if we recognize that following Jesus is the only way to know the fullness of God's love, then it just makes sense that we would want to be with Him wherever He goes. I love that the disciples asked, "Can I stay with you?" Because In my mind, that puts a completely different twist on the way that we usually think about becoming a Christian. I mean, we often talk about making Jesus a part of our lives or inviting Jesus into my heart. But what if we need to turn that around? What if we need to realize that Jesus is inviting us to be a part of his life? He offers us the opportunity to become a part of what he's doing. He invites us to join him. When Jesus calls me to forgive, I don't have to do the difficult work of forgiving. I just simply come into a place of forgiveness with Jesus. When he tells me to show mercy and compassion, I don't have to figure out how to be kind to hateful or difficult people. I simply just come to the place where Jesus shows me and them compassion, and I join in what Jesus is already doing. When Jesus asks me to deny myself and take up my cross and follow him, I don't have to figure out how to accomplish that on my own. I just simply draw closer to Christ, who has already denied himself and taken up his cross. This morning, Jesus extends the invitation for us to come and see, but we get to decide if we really want to follow him. We have to decide, are we willing to make that kind of commitment? Do we really want to devote ourselves to that kind of close relationship? It means letting go of our own desires and expectations and surrendering our whole being to God's plan for our life. Alan Smith writes that Jesus' invitation touches on the three great searches in our lives. Whatever you're looking for falls into one of three categories: a way in, a way out, and a way home. Some of us are looking this morning for a way in. We want a foot in the door for meaning and purpose in our lives. We're looking for a fighting chance. This morning, others of us are looking for a way out of sorrow, a way out of shame, a way out of trouble, a way out of loneliness, a way to find peace in the midst of all of this brokenness. And I think a lot of us are looking for a way home, a place where we belong, a place where we fit, a place where we're safe to be who we are, where we can be nurtured, loved, and cherished, even when we mess up. We want a place where we matter, a place where people miss us when we're gone. Jesus' invitation to come and see tells us that no matter which one of those things you're looking for, you can find it if you allow him to be your leader. When you come to Jesus, you find a way in. You find a purpose for your life as you see God's love for you and how God wants you to love the community, the world, and your neighbors. When you come to Jesus, you find a way out because you find a way out of sin, a way out of shame, a way out of sorrow, a way out of regret and anxiety. But the thing that excites me the most is when you come to Jesus, you find a way home. You find a place where you belong, a place where you're loved, a place where you matter, where you have value. This morning, as we make our way to the tables, Jesus is asking us again, what are you looking for? Are you looking for community? That's found at the table. Are you looking for love and encouragement? That's found at his table. Are you looking for forgiveness, for a place to have a new start? That's found at his table as well. This morning, Jesus is already at the table waiting for you to come and see, making himself known to us in the breaking of the bread and the taking of the cup. And so I encourage you this morning to join me at the table and to expect to find Jesus, because if you come looking for nothing, that might be exactly what you find. This morning, we go to the table because Jesus invites us to come and see. Come and see what life is like being his disciple. Come and see what life is like following his lead. Come and see what life is like trusting him to take us to the places we were created to be. You see, that's where we find a way in, a way out, and a place to belong. It's when we agree to follow the leader who invites us to come and see. This morning, I hope you have a wonderful time around the table. I hope you're able to have a good conversation about your leader and what it means to follow the one that loves you completely. Have a great week. Please always remember that you're loved. Go in peace, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.